9 of the biggest names in golf just skipped the most important stretch of the PGA Tour's spring calendar. This did not happen quietly. It happened at a tournament built specifically to showcase the sport's biggest stars, at a $20 million event, on a course the tour had waited a decade to bring back. This wasn't a scheduling accident. It was a signal, and by the end of this video you will know the exact rule that caused it, and the plan the tour is now using to fix it. The tournament in question was marketed as can't-miss television. A limited field, guaranteed star power, and a legendary course making its return to the schedule after 10 years away. Instead, the entry list told a different story than the marketing did. Cover athletes, major champions, and the players broadcasters build entire weekends of coverage around were simply not there. Fans who bought tickets expecting to see the sport's top-ranked golfers, sponsors who paid for guaranteed exposure to those same names, and broadcasters who sold advertising inventory around a marquee field all found themselves facing a field that looked meaningfully different from what had been promised months earlier. The word guaranteed was supposed to mean something in a signature event. This week, it didn't. Trump National Doral had not hosted a PGA Tour event since 2016. Its return marked the first time in a decade that the tour brought its full weight back to the Blue Monster course in Miami. The event carried signature event status, meaning a $20 million purse, a no-cut format, and a field built almost entirely from the top 50 players in the previous season's FedEx Cup standings. On paper, this was supposed to be a guaranteed showcase of the sport's biggest stars, at one of golf's most storied venues, broadcast to a global audience across networks including NBC Sports, Golf Channel, and Sky Sports. The signature event concept did not begin as signature events at all. Site index equals 4-1. They were introduced in 2023 under the name Designated Events, before being rebranded, and by 2026 the category had grown to 8 limited field tournaments carrying a $20 million purse and 700 FedEx Cup points to the winner. Site index equals 4-1. Eligibility for these events includes the top 50 members from the prior season's FedEx Cup standings, current year tournament winners, the top 30 players in the official World Golf Rankings, and a further 15 members who qualify through the Aon Next 10 and Aon Swing 5 pathways, along with 4 sponsor exemptions per event. Site, there were originally supposed to be 9 signature events on the 2026 calendar, but site index equals 4-1, the first of them, the Century, was canceled in October 2025 due to course conditions at Kapalua, leaving 8 events to carry the format's full weight for the season. Site, the Doral event, marketed under the name the Cadillac Championship, became the 5th of those 8 signature events. On the 2026 calendar, Trump National Doral was not a random choice of venue for this experiment. Site index equals 14-1. The tournament marked the 56th PGA Tour event played at the course, renewing one of the longest-running relationships between a venue and professional golf, with the Blue Monster hosting tour events annually from 1962 through 2016. Site index equals 18-1. Over 5 decades at Doral, 14 World Golf Hall of Famers have claimed victory there, including Tiger Woods, a 4-time champion at the venue. Site index equals 14-1. Woods won at Doral in 2005, 2006, 2007, and 2013, and the Blue Monster's waterlined finishing stretch, holes 15, 16, and the demanding par 4 18th, has historically produced dramatic Sunday finishes. Site, the course itself stretches to site index equals 42-1, 739 yards, and when the South Florida wind picks up, it becomes a serious physical test even for elite professionals. Site, announcing the sponsorship. Site index equals 14-1. Rolapp said, "We are pleased to welcome back Cadillac, a world-class brand whose partnership with the PGA Tour is synonymous with Trump National Doral, a legacy venue on our schedule. We appreciate the support of Cadillac as we bring a new era of the PGA Tour to our fans in Miami." Site, that guarantee did not hold. 5 of the top 15 players in the official World Golf Rankings chose not to enter the field. These are not journeymen looking for a week off. These are cover athletes, major champions, and the players broadcasters build entire weekends of coverage around. The players who stayed home represent the exact demographic the signature event format was designed to lock in. Here is the list, confirmed against the tournament's own commitment sheet. Rory McIlroy, the reigning Masters champion, skipped the event, his second consecutive signature event absence after also sitting out the RBC Heritage earlier in the same month. Matt Fitzpatrick, ranked world number 3 at the time, withdrew after winning both the RBC Heritage and the Zurich Classic of New Orleans in consecutive weeks. Xander Schauffele, ranked world number 9, took a second straight week off. Ludwig Aberg, ranked world number 14, did the same, fresh off a T4 finish at Harbour Town. Robert McIntyre, ranked world number 12, withdrew as well. Patrick Cantlay pulled out on the Tuesday before the tournament, citing illness, with no further detail released. Brooks Koepka was not eligible for a sponsor invitation and missed the field entirely. Wyndham Clark, sitting outside the top 50 in FedEx Cup standings from the prior year, also did not qualify. Tony Finau, ranked outside the top 100 in the world, did not receive one of the sponsor exemptions either. Site index equals 50-1. The tournament proceeded without 5 of the top 15 players in the world rankings, driven largely by scheduling around the Truist Championship and the PGA Championship. Site 9 major names, absent from a single week, and that number does not even include the additional players who simply weren't ranked highly enough to qualify for the signature event field in the first place. The field vacancies created by these withdrawals were filled through the tour's alternate system rather than left open. Site index equals 15-1. Michael Thorbjornsen entered as the first alternate following Cantlay's withdrawal, while Alex Fitzpatrick, Matt Fitzpatrick's younger brother, earned his own place in the field days earlier by winning the Zurich Classic of New Orleans alongside Matt, a result that also secured Alex a 2-year PGA Tour card and exemption into the remaining signature events of the season. Site, just hopefully on the first tee I'll hit the fairway, and then I'll go from there. Alex, Fitzpatrick said of his approach to his first start as a full PGA Tour member. Site index equals 15-1. Brooks Koepka sat as the tournament's second alternate, watching from outside the field despite his 3 career wins at the PGA Championship, the major arriving just 2 weeks later. Site, the field that did take the tee still carried depth. Site index equals 42-1. The tournament still featured 37 of the top 50 players in the world rankings. Site, but the specific names missing were the ones the event had been marketed around. To understand why this matters, you need to understand what changed about the tournament format itself. A normal PGA Tour event uses a 36-hole cut. After 2 rounds, roughly half the field goes home, and only those players who survive the cut continue into the weekend. This structure creates a built-in rest period for eliminated players and creates dramatic stakes for those on the cut line, since missing the cut means no paycheck and no weekend of competition. Signature events work differently. Site index equals 4-1. The 3-player-hosted signature events, the Genesis Invitational, the Arnold Palmer Invitational, and the Memorial Tournament feature 36-hole cuts to the top 50 in ties, while the remaining 5 signature events carry no cut at all. Site, the Cadillac Championship at Doral belonged to that second group. Site index equals 19-1. All 72 of the world's best golfers invited to the event were guaranteed to progress to the weekend, with even the player who finished last on Sunday's leaderboard still collecting a paycheck. Site, removing the cut was framed as a benefit to players, guaranteed money, guaranteed 4 rounds, no risk of an early flight home. Site index equals 6-1. The prize money distribution reinforced that framing. The 3-player-hosted signature events allocate 20% of the purse to the winner, roughly $4 million, while the 5 no-cut signature events allocate 18%, or $3.6 million, to whoever finishes on top. Site in practice, removing the cut took away something else, the built-in incentive to hold anything back. Every no-cut signature event now demands 4 full competitive rounds from every player in the field, back-to-back, with no forced rest day built into the structure. A player who might otherwise withdraw or manage his effort after a poor 36 holes has no reason to do so under a no-cut format, since every round still counts toward a guaranteed paycheck regardless of position on the leaderboard. That detail becomes critical once you look at the calendar surrounding the event. Site index equals 9-1. The 2026 schedule placed the Masters, the RBC Heritage, the Zurich Classic, the Miami Championship, the Truist Championship, and the PGA Championship in a 6-week stretch, 2 major championships and 3 signature events within that window. Site, the Doral event fell directly between the RBC Heritage and the Truist Championship, with the PGA Championship, the year's second major, arriving just 2 weeks later. Site index equals 42-1. Both the Truist Championship at Quail Hollow and the PGA Championship sat immediately ahead on the calendar, giving several top players reason to rest and prepare rather than commit to another 72-hole no-cut week. Site index equals 11-1. Former PGA Tour winner Smillie Kaufman publicly described the stretch of the schedule between April and May as tough for players not qualified for signature events, pointing specifically to the 2-month window packed with the RBC Heritage, the Truist Championship, and the PGA Championship all landing close together. Site, major championship preparation requires more than physical rest. It requires practice rounds on an unfamiliar golf course, reading greens that a player may not have seen competitively in years, and rebuilding a rhythm specific to major championship conditions. Site index equals 47-1. McIlroy was expected to return the following week at Quail Hollow, a course where he has won 4 times, making his first appearance there since his Masters victory. Site index equals 47-1. Schauffele and Aberg were both taking a second consecutive week off to manage form heading into the summer stretch. Site, the trade-off facing these players was direct. Burn 4 competitive rounds at a big money exhibition with no forced rest, or protect the body and the practice schedule for the tournament that actually defines a season. For players chasing major championships rather than a single large paycheck, the math does not favor the exhibition. That trade-off exposes a miscalculation that PGA Tour executives appear to have made when they designed the signature event system. The assumption was straightforward. A $20 million purse buys compliance. Give players enough money, and they will show up regardless of the calendar around them. The players' actual decision-making did not follow that logic. Site index equals 46-1. With McIlroy, Fitzpatrick, Schauffele, and Aberg all missing from the field, the more open draw gave the rest of the 72-man field a clearer path to the $20 million purse, and Cameron Young capitalized, winning by 6 strokes over Scottie Scheffler with a 19-under total. Site, career longevity and major championship performance outweighed a single week's earnings for the sport's biggest names. This was not a rejection of the Doral event specifically. It was a rejection of a system that asked players to treat every big money week as equally mandatory, regardless of what surrounded it on the calendar. The pattern was not confined to Doral either. Site index equals 47-1. The same week's reporting on missing players noted that Brooks Koepka and Shane Lowry had also missed the cut at the Zurich Classic just days earlier, extending their own breaks by a further 2 days, while Wyndham Clark sat 70th in the world rankings after finishing 56th in the prior year's FedEx Cup standings, nowhere close to the top 50 threshold required for automatic entry. Site index equals 47-1. Marco Penge, ranked 38th in the world, was dealing with a family hospital stay for his newborn child after 7 consecutive weeks on the road, and Tony Finau, ranked 116th, did not receive a sponsor invitation after being given one for 3 earlier events that season. Site, different players, different individual circumstances, but the same underlying signal. A signature event calendar this dense could not consistently secure full participation from the sport's top tier, whether by choice or by simple qualification math. The fallout extended well beyond the leaderboard. Sponsors who paid for a marquee field now had to explain a tournament missing 5 of the top 15 players in the world to their own stakeholders. Broadcasters who built advertising packages around McIlroy, Fitzpatrick, and Schauffele had to sell a field led by Scottie Scheffler and Tommy Fleetwood instead. Still a strong field, but not the one that had been marketed. Doral's return after 10 years away was supposed to be a marquee homecoming. Instead, it became the latest data point in a growing conversation about a tour schedule that site index equals 9-1. Sports Illustrated described as put in a tough spot by the addition of another signature event, with the biggest stars and regular tournaments squeezed by the congestion. Cite local businesses around Doral, hospitality vendors, and ticket holders who paid to see the sport's top-ranked players absorbed the same disappointment, and the players missing the cut structure altogether. The caddies, coaches, and physiotherapists who depend on their players advancing through 36 holes to earn additional weekend pay felt the absence of the cut line in a different way. A no-cut field means guaranteed income for every player regardless of performance, but it also means the financial stakes that usually reward strong play over 2 rounds simply don't exist in the same form. Site index equals 9-1. This mattered more because of the position the tour had built into 2025. A year in which television ratings had rebounded to pre-LIV golf levels. Rory McIlroy completed the career Grand Slam at the Masters and won the Players' Championship, and Schauffele put together another historic season. Site, a field missing 5 of the top 15 players threatened to undercut exactly the kind of momentum the tour had spent the previous year rebuilding. The person now responsible for addressing this sits at the top of the organization. Brian Rolapp joined the PGA Tour as CEO in June 2025, following a 22-year career at the NFL, and the tour's boards approved him to become the next commissioner, succeeding Jay Monahan, effective January 1st. On June 23, 2026, ahead of the Travelers' Championship in Cromwell, Connecticut, Rolapp unveiled the results of a year-long review by the tour's Future Competition Committee. A complete overhaul of how the PGA Tour structures its competition, beginning with the 2028 season. From day one, the focus of the Future Competition Committee has been to build the best version of the PGA Tour, and to do so in a way that reflects the voice of our players and the expectations of our fans, Rolapp said. The site index equals 28-1. The result, in his words, is a new competitive model grounded in meritocracy, with clearer pathways, higher stakes, and more consistency when the best players compete together. Site. The new structure splits the tour into 2 divisions. Site index equals 34-1. The PGA Tour Championship Series will sit at the top, consisting of 23 to 24 events including the 4 majors, the Players' Championship, and international team events such as the Ryder Cup and President's Cup. Site index equals 36-1. Championship Series events will feature fields of approximately 120 players, contested as 72-hole stroke play with a 36-hole cut to the top 65 in ties, carrying a purse of at least $20 million, with no sponsor exemptions and no alternate list. Site index equals 34-1. Membership in the Championship Series will consist of a minimum of 90 players retained from the prior season's points list, with at least 20 players promoted from the second-tier series each year. Site index equals 23-1. That second tier, the PGA Tour Challenger Series, will serve as a feeder circuit, with players earning promotion after strong results, while those who fall outside the retained group face relegation down to it. Site index equals 36-1. The Challenger Series will run at least 20 events with fields of around 144 players, also under a 36-hole cut, with purses of at least $4 million. Site. Rolapp drew a direct comparison to European soccer to explain the concept to fans unfamiliar with the format. Site index equals 26-1. The Premier League is a decent analogy, Rolapp told Sky Sports, describing his fondness for how powerfully promotion and relegation work in football. Site index equals 23-1. The move represents a rare adoption of promotion and relegation within a major American sports property, where closed league structures have historically dominated. Site World number 1 Scottie Scheffler offered public support for the direction, saying the tour is moving in the right direction. The Challenger Series carries its own detail worth noting. Site index equals 30-1. At least 7 of its roughly 20 events are expected to be standalone tournaments that will not overlap with Championship Series weeks, giving relegated and developing players a schedule of their own, rather than a purely secondary circuit running in the shadow of the top tier. Site index equals 28-1. A separate last chance series of 4 to 6 events will be played in the fall, offering a limited number of remaining Championship Series spots for the following season 2. Players looking to improve or retain their status, while the tour's annual qualifying tournament, or Q-School, will continue to provide broader access across the entire PGA Tour ecosystem. /site index equals 32-1. The tour also confirmed a limited international series for the fall season, built around a partnership with the DP World Tour, with events such as the Australian Open already announced as part of that push. /site. On the decision to eliminate sponsor exemptions from the top tier entirely, site index equals 35-1. Rolapp explained that it was important to credibility, noting that sponsors in other major sports do not determine who takes the field. /site. On the broader commercial logic behind the whole restructuring, site index equals 23-1, Rolapp said, if you're competing for media dollars, which is the economic lifeblood of every sport in this country, you need to be constantly improving the product. /site. This restructuring directly answers the failure exposed at Doral. Every championship series event will now carry a 36-hole cut, ending the no-cut format that removed the incentive for players to hold anything back during signature weeks. Site index equals 33-1. Fields will expand toward roughly 120 players per event, with cuts to the top 65 and ties, restoring a structure where surviving 2 rounds carries real consequence. /site index equals 37-1. These events will carry purses of at least $20 million, with every player on the championship series eligible to compete throughout the season, and the schedule will include regularly built-in off weeks to give players actual rest between events. /site index equals 22-1. The new postseason will also introduce match play into the format for the first time, and the Tour Championship will rotate across different courses rather than remaining at East Lake in Atlanta, where it has been played every year since 2004. /site. The reintroduced cut line restores something the no-cut experiment eliminated: organic competitive tension that does not require a gimmick to generate television drama. A player on the cut line at the halfway point of a 36-hole cut event faces real stakes: advance and compete for the weekend's prize money, or miss the cut and go home empty-handed. That tension is what drew audiences to golf broadcasts long before the signature event era began, and it is the exact mechanic that a no-cut, guaranteed money format removed entirely. Bubble players, those ranked just outside the top tier, also gain a clearer, merit-based path back into the sport's biggest events through the promotion structure, rather than depending on sponsor exemptions or a single season's FedEx Cup finish to determine access. Site index equals 28-1. Full eligibility criteria, including additional exemption categories for tournament winners, medical extensions, and career milestones, are still being finalized by the tour's boards. /site. The venue plan for the new championship series also reflects a direct response to how thin the 2026 calendar had become around events like Doral. Site index equals 23-1. The tour has already finalized 10 of the expected 15 championship series regular season events for 2028, with the remaining slots to be filled either by existing tournaments or entirely new markets under consideration, including Boston, Denver, New York, Philadelphia, San Francisco, Seattle, and Washington, D.C. /site. Spreading the top tier's biggest events across a wider geographic footprint, combined with mandatory off weeks built into the calendar, directly targets the 6-week pileup of majors and signature events that pushed 9 recognizable names out of the Doral field in the first place. Framed against the events at Doral, the walkout by 9 of the sport's biggest names looks less like a crisis the tour narrowly survived and more like the trigger for a correction the players themselves forced into motion. Site index equals 29-1. Rolapp had already signaled the direction as early as June, when he outlined a top tier concentrated into roughly 21 to 26 tournaments between late January and early September, effectively doubling the 8 signature events that existed under the old system. /site. An August finish to the regular schedule is also designed to free players to compete internationally, including on the DP World Tour, addressing part of the scheduling congestion that pushed 9 stars out of Doral in the first place. The core numbers tell the story plainly. 5 of the top 15 players in the world skipped a $20 million, no-cut signature event at a course the tour waited a decade to bring back. 9 recognizable names were absent from the field in total, once withdrawals and non-qualifiers are combined. In direct response, the PGA Tour approved a structural overhaul that reinstates the 36-hole cut across its top tier, expands fields toward 120 players, and introduces a promotion and relegation system modeled explicitly on a global sports format outside American professional sports, arriving with the 2028 season. Every detail of that overhaul, the retained 90 players, the minimum 20 promotions each season, the 120-player fields, the 36-hole cuts to the top 65 in ties, and the $20 million minimum purses, traces back to the same underlying pressure point exposed at Doral. A calendar so congested that even a marquee, guaranteed money event could not consistently secure its own headline players. Guaranteed star power or a real cut? Which format do you actually want to watch on your screen? Comment your take below, subscribe for more analysis like this, and let us know if you want a full breakdown of exactly how the 2028 Championship Series and Challenger Series promotion system will work.